Okay, cool. Welcome, Shannon. This is an interview, a post-program interview, and we're going to be going over what your experience was so far in the 90-day vagus nerve stimulation and repair program. So welcome. I'm really excited to interview you about your experience with the program as a whole, with the vagus nerve stimulation technology we used, and your experience and kind of why you initially signed up for the program, and to help others understand what it's really like going through a vagus nerve centric program where it really focuses
Okay.
on that exclusively, with a few other things thrown in. So so yeah, initially, let us know, like, what was your initial reason for joining the program? What was the main thing you were hoping to accomplish by joining?
Okay. Um, my chiropractor is the first one that introduced me to vagus nerve and what she had been doing research about, and learning about it. The reason I specifically thought to try it is because 2 days before my period starts, for 10 or 12 years, I vomit all day long. And the same chiropractor told me that my stomach would spasm and it would just keep spasming and I would get sick all day. So once a month, if it happened on a work day, I lost a whole day of work. If it happened on a weekend, an entire day. So that's what I was really trying to fix. And I feel like over the 10 years, 12 years I was having this issue, I feel like I had tried everything I could try to kind of eliminate it. So, so that's why I reached out to you and joined the program to try to figure that out.
Fantastic, fantastic. So yeah, yeah, from my recollection, it was really long term issue. And when we initially consulted with each other, when had our first initial consultation phone call, you had kind of brought me up to speed on what the problems were, um, and the initial problems were that you were getting really nauseous beforehand. So about 2 to 3 days prior to your period developing, you would get really extreme bouts of nausea. Is that correct?
That is correct. And I would get a really severe pain right on this part of my neck. And, I could try to take pain relievers and it wouldn't do it. The only thing that would even give me a little relief was to push on it and lay on it and try to get as much pressure on it as I could. But but it wouldn't resolve itself until everything had worked its course.
Got you. So yeah, and you had tried. I remember you had tried many different drugs to help
Hmm.
with it. I believe like anti-nausea medication as well was pretty common. Um, and so on that first consultation, what we did is we developed a plan of action, essentially, like kind of like a 90-day plan. And where we kind of worked together on this was that we're going to look at how to initially influence the vagus nerve, because there was an initial suspicion that because the vagus nerve does connect to like the ovaries and the release of progesterone in a monthly cycle, that it does help regulate those glands, that in part by stimulating it, it may help to provide some initial change and some initial movement in the process. um, and from your understanding, that seemed to kind of to resonate with you, in terms of what might help. Is that correct?
Right. When I would do my own research, and it took me a long time to figure this out. If you got sick the day your period started, maybe someone else could put two and two together faster than I could. But because it was 2 days prior, am I eating too much sugar? What did I do yesterday? Was it the glass of wine? I mean, and I'm horrible about tracking. So it took me embarrassingly long time to figure out what was causing this problem. Once I figured out exactly, and also my period was changing. It was going to, 3 weeks apart instead of 4 weeks apart. So I really wasn't tying it together because it wasn't, exactly 28 days apart or whatever was happening. So I did my research and looked, and, 2 days before your period starts is when your estrogen and your progesterone spike.
Mm.
So then it occurred to me that was the fastest way for your body to eliminate something like that is getting sick. So 2 days before, I was having this huge spike of hormones, and then, my body would need to get rid of it, and that's the quickest way to do it. So then
Mm.
it all started clicking, and
Mm.
when we started talking about it and putting it on paper.
Okay, great. So the first, so and how we did it is we separated our 90 days together into three different chunks. So we said there's going
Hmm.
to be three main cycles we're going to go through. So initially, the first 28 days, the first 30-day period, it's not to expect a whole bunch of change, right? We're not expecting to initially fix it or completely eradicate the nausea, but we are looking for some initial differences. And I remember there was an interesting difference. Do you remember what that was in that first
If I
period?
recall, I had my vomiting like mid-cycle.
Hmm.
Um, it was completely unexpected. It was not the right time to have it. But when I told you that, you said movement is movement. It's when you're stagnant that it's the problem. So if things are changing, we're changing something, and something is
Hmm. Yeah.
getting better.
Yeah.
And then also over the course, not to jump ahead, but my period started going back to 4 weeks. So those are two changes that happened over the cycle.
Yeah. And I remember, so yeah, initially it's usually, so we start at like, there's day one, and then the average time for a period is usually about 27 days.
Hmm.
I think I recall correctly that you have a faster than normal period, generally speaking. It was about 23 days, correct?
Right.
On
That's
average.
correct. I would get sick on day 21, and then 23, my period would start.
Right. So it's a relatively fast cycle. So that's a lot more nausea in that period of time than if it was a 27-day cycle. And so I
Right.
think about day 14, you actually had an initial spike of nausea,
Hmm.
and it lasted
Correct.
for one day. And so then
Right.
that happened. So that was an indicator of something's shifting here, right?
Hmm.
And then I believe that on about the same time, about day 21, 22, 23, that you did have the your actual period at that time, correct?
Correct. Hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Yes. And how that one wasn't much different, right? It was still about the same, but it wasn't as
Right. I
severe as
think
the other
maybe I
one.
got sick. I think I got sick once or twice, but then it
Hmm.
stopped. And usually I have to take exhaustive measures to make it to stop.
Right.
But this time I only got sick once or twice, and then it was
Hmm.
over. So I remember being just as excited about that as
Yeah.
I didn't get sick at all because that was huge that it stopped on its own.
Hmm. Hmm. Great. And then so then that second cycle that we did, the second period, do you recall what happened in that second period?
I believe I moved to 26 days or 27 days apart.
Hmm.
Um, and I think I think I only got sick once or twice, if at all. Yeah, I'm horrible
Hmm.
at writing this stuff down.
That's fine. I take great notes on this stuff on my
Good,
end.
good.
Yeah. So then, yeah, that was the second cycle. You switched into a like a 27-day cycle. So it was
That's
much
what I
longer
thought.
than normal, which is definitely more standard. I think it's probably
Hmm.
would be considered more healthy, relatively speaking. Um,
Hmm.
and so then there was that second cycle, which was really promising, and then the third cycle, I did we notice an initial like a mid blip, a mid nauseous blip? Because I think this
I don't think so.
right, so
I
that
think the
didn't
third
happen.
cycle,
Yeah,
right.
and then the end. So the end of the very third cycle, what happened then? Do you remember?
Perfect. I didn't even have PMS. I didn't know it was coming. Um, no headaches, no vomiting.
Wow, it's amazing.
Yeah,
So we made yeah,
it
so
was very amazing.
yeah, very cool. And this had been something you had literally been dealing with for many, many years, very
Right,
consistently. Yeah.
right,
Yeah. With all kinds of drugs, all kinds of anti nausea medication.
right.
Yeah. So a lot of work went into that. And then this specific modality of stimulating the nerve
Hmm.
really helped to, again, it created that movement in the system that allows you to kind of break free of it. And I know that kind of the medication you had been taking before, it's pretty hardcore stuff. It really blocks a lot of it does some initial blocking of nausea of on the vagus nerve, but anytime you block something with a chemical blocker, it has like residual effects. So I've often found
Hmm.
that like you can get initial pain relief from something, but you also could make pain worse later on. So the thing that you
Well,
were
and
using to fix could have made it worse.
and some of these along the way, it was so out of control. I would actually go to acute care or the emergency room, and then when you do that, you're walking out with five different shots, and they try
Mm-hmm.
to slip in a flu shot and all the things that they try to do.
Whoa.
I know it's awful, but but I feel so bad. I'm like, whatever you have to do to make this stop.
Yeah.
So, but
Oh gosh.
I mean, more than once I ended up in the ER for this, and would get dehydrated, and I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it wasn't just inconvenient for a day, a month.
Yeah.
It was miserable.
Yeah. So it was very risky risky. It's like an illness almost, or it's a bodily reaction, like a sickness that's trying to. It's like your body's trying to purge some kind of some, you know,
Right.
cleaning itself out essentially, and it's just
Right. And it started a little bit before I turned 40. So,
okay.
is that normal? I don't know. It's definitely not optimal,
No,
you know.
no, definitely not. And I don't think that no, I mean that's definitely not a normal thing to happen for that to be that bad. And
Hmm.
what do you think? What would you want to say to people who think that that they're just become so used to period pain to the nausea? What would you say to them about this kind of thing? Like, is
It,
there?
and that you accept things as normal that, are not optimal. And that's what I always try to keep in mind is, yeah, it might be you're normal, but it's not optimal. Optimally, you shouldn't feel this bad before your period starts. And for 3 months now, I don't. I mean, if I don't look at the calendar, I don't know it's coming.
Wow.
I mean, I used to have tender breasts. I don't have that. I still kind of get a little irritated, but that may
Hmm.
not be me. But I just
That may be more
it's
out of your
it's
control.
very nice because now I'm getting closer to 50 and I have less hormonal problems that I had all along. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's really fantastic.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. And so, what's your suspicion about what's happening here? Like, you know your body best. Do you feel like it is a regulation of hormones like progesterone, estrogen? Do you think that there is a shift happening, or is it something just mental? What do you think is going on?
I feel like it is hormonal. If you
Mm-hmm.
if you Google a chart on how your hormones work or how a woman's hormones work over a month, it spikes 2 days before your period.
Right.
And that's exactly when I was getting sick. So really, it really became clear to me that it was hormonal.
Mm.
And now that we've done this vagus nerve work for so long, it seems to me that we're correcting the issue. It's the underlying issue. I hate treating symptoms.
Mm.
What is causing the problem? And now it looks like we're regulating that to where it's not a problem anymore.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And so, what was your initial reaction to seeing that there was an sort of an alternative method to potentially treating this, or to potentially look at helping? What was your initial reaction? What was your thought process to going, well, okay, I've tried so many things, they just don't seem to be working. I'm going to give this a shot. What was your thought process there?
Well, the chiropractor told me that she had read some stuff about like if you get an underlying infection that doesn't clear up, it can just lie dormant in your vagus nerve. And
Mm,
other things that she was doing, it was telling her I was having vagus nerve issues.
mm,
Um, so I moved away from her, unfortunately. So I had to start doing my research and figuring out stuff on my own.
mm.
Um, but ultimately, reading the symptoms and looking at stuff like that really made me think this was the right path. And I'm also going to throw something in here you talked about this week on your Facebook page,
Yeah.
the sensory deprivation tank.
Mm-hmm.
If I would do that the week before my period, it would minimize my symptoms.
Mm,
So
okay.
again, that leads me more towards hormones because that detoxes you through your skin and that would help those hormones release. And then I also wouldn't get sick.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, very, very interesting. Yeah, there's yeah, a lot of amazing benefits from like flotation therapy as well. What what has this freedom from this, like, because this is nausea that can send you to the hospital, right? So that makes it,
Right.
and
Yep.
before we started, it was every 21 days. So that's like
Hmm.
every 3 weeks, you're like, I'm gonna be out on my butt, totally laid out, being sick, taking medication. So what has that afforded you now in terms of some freedom in terms of your other parts of your life? What more are you able to
It,
do because of that?
it's amazing. I mean, one of the times I was sick was right before we went on a cruise.
Mm,
So, I kept thinking I would feel better and I didn't feel better. So 9 o'clock the night before the cruise, my husband took me to the emergency room. They injected me with all kinds of stuff. Then when I finally felt better the next morning, I had to pack for a week-long cruise in 2 hours. I've missed, we're big SEC basketball fans. I've missed games because I'm not going to get between 12 people that I have to climb over to get to a restroom to get sick.
mm,
So, I mean, it's just, and now I don't have to worry about that. I know I can make my plans. I don't have to look at the calendar and work stuff out.
beautiful, beautiful. Okay, tell me a little bit more about the sleep. How's the sleep improved for you?
Okay. Very much.
Huh.
The first couple of weeks, I was using the app. The little chart tells you deep sleeps, and maybe I was getting one or two deep
Is
sleep.
this the Aura Ring or the Apple Watch?
No, it's the Apple Watch.
Apple Watch. Okay. Good.
Yep. So now when I look at it, I mean, I hit deep sleeps. It's a beautiful cycle
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
of deep sleep throughout the night.
Wow.
But if I don't do it, if I get to bed late or I don't read or, for whatever reason I skip it,
Yeah.
you can see it. You
Yeah.
can see it.
Wow. That's impressive. So yeah,
Hmm.
this has probably had some pretty profound effects outside of just your health. So have has this impacted like your personal life, allowed you to be like have less stress, perform better? What are some other external benefits from being free of this problem?
I feel like I have less stress. I feel calmer. Um, but I don't know that to be true. I know I'm getting better sleep because I can see it on
Right.
my, with my Apple Watch.
Hmm.
And I love that stuff. Every morning I hop up and check it because I just think it's so interesting. Oh, I had a glass of wine. Look at how it interrupted my sleep.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I enjoy that feedback and being able to see it.
Hmm. That's beautiful. And so I think we started working together like it was last year. Um, And was there any specific moment where you kind of where it clicked for you? You're like, wow, this is really powerful. Like there's something really powerful going on. Was there a moment in that process where
Well, I
it
mean, the
clicked?
first time I got my period and I didn't have the week of PMS leading up to it, or the awful headache, or the nausea, and it always seemed to hit on Fridays and Saturdays. So I do payroll at my office on Friday, or I've
Mm,
lost a weekend day. So I mean, there were some payroll days where I just had to push through and put my head on my desk and stay at
mm.
work and get sick in the office bathroom. And
Oh wow.
so the first time I hit that, had my period and didn't have that leading up to it, it was very exciting.
Wow, that's awesome. That's very cool. I love hearing that. See, I told people, I told this. I'm so glad we were
You
able
know
to
what you're
talk
talking
about
about.
this. I do know what I'm talking about. This is not my first time with
Yeah, yeah.
rodeo. That's very cool. Cool. So what would would there be any other things you'd want to tell people watching who, maybe, I mean, there's a lot of people who are like perimenopausal who experience these kind of hormonal issues. Do you think
Hmm.
that there might be some help for them in this as well, who may have some varying
I
degrees of hormonal
I would
issues?
hope so. I
Yeah.
mean, I would hope that I'm not the only person that gets this success from doing this program. So, I encourage you to try it because, what if you do feel better? What if it does work?
Right. Right. And I mean, as of the many years we've been doing that, there's very little side effects at all. Like it's really been an
Right.
amazing. Yeah, I mean, I'm asked that. I have to scratch my head. I'm like, what are the side effects here? I mean, there's very few, really. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I get the gel on my pajamas. Is
yeah, you got to clean up
that a
gel,
bad side effect?
a little cleanup.
Other than that,
Yeah,
that's
that's
right.
awesome. That's very cool. Very cool. Well, hey, thank you so much, Shannon, for hopping on here and sharing your story. It's been really inspiring to see your shifts and really to see you get a really important part of your life back. That
Really.
those days of your lives that may have been spent in the hospital now are spent.
Hmm.
What do you do on those days where you're like, dang, I just got another 2 3 days free of the month. You
Yeah,
just feel
I
like,
mean, yeah, yeah. And then I don't feel bad. I hate feeling bad. My
oh
pain
yeah,
threshold is like low. So
mm,
I don't like feeling bad and I don't like having to take something,
yeah,
to make me not feel bad, but I will. I'll take whatever I can put my hands on because I don't
mm,
like feeling bad.
mm-hmm.
But I'm happy now that I'm not having to take something and I'm not feeling bad.
That's fantastic. Super cool. Super cool. Well,
It
hey, thanks
really
so
is.
much
It
for
really is.
yeah, I'm stoked to hear this. So, thank you so much. It's so good to see you, and I look forward to yeah, maybe we'll do a check in a year and see a
Sure.
follow up. So I would love to do that. Thank you so much.
Sounds great. All
All
right.
right,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Mhm.